CFL betting blueprint. It's week 5. Andrew and Bobby, we're going to break things down, let you guys know where we think the lines are going to go. Maybe a little bit of a recap, of course, of week 4 and much, much more. Bobby, how are you?
Good. Things are getting back on. It's easy to end a losing streak when you bet on both sides of the same game. So, finished the week pretty well, and we're still above water for the year, even though we had a really hot start for week 1 and 2.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy this weekend, so I'm gonna be battling it this week. 5 is gonna be a big week for me. Had a good start to the week. I'll tell you what, I mean, based on my season, Bobby, I should be just betting on Thursdays. I think I might be the best Thursday CFL guy this year, just crushing it with the player props or with the sides, total, whatever it might be. But, just a little bit of stuff disappointed in. Some stuff, I think, just wrong side. Some stuff, unfortunate events. But we'll just do a quick recap. We don't want to spend too much time on it because, of course, we will touch on teams throughout the breakdown of week 5. But Winnipeg on Thursday night, they take care of Edmonton 36-23. Hamilton Friday night 35-17 over the Alouettes at home. Saskatchewan 37-18 victory at home over the BC Lions. And the only road team to get a win this week as the Argos win 29-16. They get their first victory of the season over the Redblacks. Just overall, we're going to talk about these teams, obviously, when we do some breakdowns, but your thoughts on this week, just any takeaways, any rants from you?
Not really any rants. Like the only one I think we were really surprised by was Hamilton there, or more or less like how bad MBT looked. And all you hear now is everybody's shocked that backup quarterbacks are first off, they're shocked they're playing. Whereas like last year, every week we were the source for who was going to start. Half the league had their backup quarterbacks playing for a lot of weeks last year, and everybody's forgot. But what we didn't think, like even going into the season, we thought, hey, there's actually a good group of backup quarterbacks now. We didn't think they'd be this bad. We didn't think Masoli would be this bad 2 games in a row. We didn't think MBT would be as bad as he was last week. We thought his first action he got 2 weeks ago was just kind of dinking and dunking, running out the clock. He didn't look good last week. So it kind of looks like we're back to where we were. Maybe not as bad as where we were, where we're calling out Shea Patterson and Jake Dolegala and I don't know. There's Tyree Adams. Tyree Adams might be walking through the door pretty soon in Ottawa, though. So, yeah, like I don't know. These backup quarterbacks, it's not a new thing. That's why following the practice reports, having a team where people actually go to practice, unlike Toronto Argonauts, where they're 4 kilometers from the league head office and nobody can go to practice. Nobody knows where it is. So, it's good to follow those beat reporters. And usually who's ever getting the reps in practice is the one who starts. All this garbage, like we told you, Jason Moss would toy and say, oh, Davis Alexander, he didn't do any practice, but he might start. No, it's not a thing in the CFL. It's just pathetic, stupid old man mind games. Not that he's a stupid, pathetic old man, but that's the kind of games they play.
Well, it's tough because first of all, I think we touched on it last week, a little bit of the Luke Wilson stuff. I can't remember how much you and I talked about this. Everything's been so blended because yesterday
we've been Luke Wilson free. We've been Luke Wilson free on this.
We didn't touch on it?
No.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess we could. But the thing is that I got a response from him over the weekend, and I asked him, hey, what's the deal with the backups? What are your situation? And he replied to me pretty much saying, if I answer – all right, pretty much saying he has to keep his lips shut is what he said. And then somebody else responded saying, is it because it's American D linemen against Canadian O linemen? And then he said, I have to keep my lips shut or something like that. He pretty much answered the question. But no matter what it is, the fact is, Bobby, this is a concern for the league. No matter what it is, like this is not – you've taken away betting for a second. This is a problem for developing and growing the league. As people that talk about it weekly on this show, that bet on it, that watch it, it's Like, look how much, like, just different, how much different the Redblacks are if Drew Brown is behind center. We haven't gotten to see him too much, obviously, but how much different that team. They go out and pick up those shiny new weapons, and they like. Imagine if you're an Ottawa Redblack wide receiver this week or this past weekend, right? Like you've just like you're running your route and you're thinking there's no shot that I'm getting the ball. And that's frustrating, right? Like looking at some of these guys and even Davis Alexander to MBT. I mean, Davis Alexander just became a starting quarterback this year for the Alouettes, but that drop off was just so obvious for some of the games. And then you touched on with Masoli and Rourke. And let's not forget, I mean, you're the BC guy, you're there in Vancouver, but from the outside perspective, it seems like there's a lot of pressure on Rourke this year. You know, VA's over there in Calgary. You've got Rourke that had that, NFL couple year tryout stuff. And then now he came back. He kicked Rourke out of town and then he gets injured. Like, if Masoli can't get it done, once Rourke gets back, there's going to be even more pressure on it to be his team. So it's just interesting. Like, it's too bad to see all these injuries, but of course it's up to us to handicap it. I did end up on the Alouettes. That was a play. It was a free play. I was blasting it everywhere. The way I looked at it was kind of a sketchy line. It was kind of a weird price. Hamilton was off a buy, but that number to me was too small. I just thought like, yeah, I get it. I get these spots, but at the end of the day, you're going to still give me -2 or 2.5 on the Owls. I'll take that. I had BC +5.5. Number I think closed like +2. That one didn't have a shot after the first half interception. We'll get to all kinds of stuff, but one thing I wanted to mention here, I'm not going to bring it up. We got enough graphics we're going to put on the screen, but ATS Records. This is something a lot of people are talking about right now across the CFL. And if you win the game, you're covering right now, Bobby, a lot of it for the East. Montreal, 3-1 record, 3-1 ATS. Hamilton, 1-2 record, 1-2 ATS. Ottawa, 1-3 straight up, 1-3 ATS. Toronto, 1-3 record. You guessed it, 1-3 ATS. So that's the East. And then now here it is with the West. Saskatchewan, 4-0 record, 4-0 ATS. Winnipeg, 3-0 record, 3-0 ATS. Calgary, 2-1. Do you believe me when I'm telling you this right now? Every single team that has won has covered the point spread so far this year. That is kind of unbelievable. So who's messing up? Are the odds makers messing up? Are we messing up by overthinking it? That's the crazy thing at this point in time, and things are going to change. That's why I wanted to bring it up here in week 5. The team that has won the game has covered all of these games so far, Bobby. I thought it was a glitch. I was like, there's got to be something wrong here with this website I'm looking at. I don't think it is. Do you?
I think it's just a 16 game sample size we're going with, and event all it takes is 2 or 3 to not cover, and then we're kind of right back where we should. Right? What's the stat for the team that wins outright covers? It's like 85% of the time or something like that. So I'm not looking into it too much. I think a lot of it has to do with these. Like we went into the season thinking there was going to be like more parity, and there hasn't been. Like the bad teams are bad, whether it's been because of quarterbacks or because of quarterback injuries or who they choose to start at quarterback, right? So I think that hey, it's good for the squares. It's good for us. We need the squares to stay in it, to take advantage of the numbers when they're out there. So. Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it, but yeah, it is definitely interesting that the records are basically identical for for the league, right?
Yeah, the only team we got. This is crazy because this was only in week 1. Winnipeg obviously 1-0 ATS as an underdog. That was with Strevler, but Calgary 2-0 ATS as an underdog. Every other team has a losing record ATS as a dog. So. To your point, the reason why I'm bringing this up isn't for us to say, hey, let's start doing this. It's because, like you said, sometimes you want to look towards the other way and be like, okay, people are going to start betting these inflated numbers, and then we can look at betting underdogs. It's just a real shame when you get an underdog at 5.5, the line closes at 2, and it just doesn't matter at all. That's frustrating.
It closed even lower. It was close to a pick before they announced Rourke out, right? Like I got Saskatchewan at 125 or 135 or something money line, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, they're like the CLV is. I think the CLV is higher than ever this this season, and it's just not. It's not translating. But
Long term, that'll lead us to success.
for
Long
sure,
term, it will lead us to some success. All right, let's get into week 5. Winnipeg visiting Calgary. We talked about the ATS record of this Calgary Stampeders team. Curious to see, Bobby, what you think of this number at plus 3.5 as home dogs. Total listed at 51.5. Calgary, strong underdogs on the year. Winnipeg, as we know, strong ATS overall this season. It seems like the books haven't been able to put a number up high enough for this team here. Is this one of those spots where you look and say, why is this number what it is at 3.5?
not really this one. Like I'm pretty high on both of these teams, and you don't really want to overreact to Calgary. They're off a bye, but yeah, sure they lost. They lost a game to Ottawa, but the weather was brutal. The passing game was eliminated, and they actually just lost because they couldn't convert like goal line situations. So I wouldn't read too much into that last loss. Home dog, something you always want to look at, but then like Winnipeg's still like they're still the best team in the league, despite what people who don't have to back up their opinions say. So I don't really see any value in this number. Like it's even trending back to the 3, and that's exactly where I think it should be. Sometimes the best team in the league only lays a couple points on it's if you're gonna go up any further to a 4 or 5 like on the road, that's just no matter who it is, it just seems like a lot, right? So you have to account for home field, not just the crowd, but there's travel involved too. It's a shorter week for the road team, so yeah, I don't really have much on this to say on this game, just because I think the line is right where it should be.
Shout out to Kevin. Kevin here. Great spot for Calgary here, back-to-back home and off a bye. Kevin, thanks for watching. We appreciate you. And, Bobby, I'll tell you, the thing is that these bye weeks, if we look back like several years, they actually have been pretty good for teams overall. And I kind of feel like I overlooked them early in the season because I kept on saying, oh, it doesn't matter. It's early in the year. Like some of these spots are spots I look for in July or I look for in August, But at the end of the day, like we know that sometimes like, that's such a small league. We know what an extra week of prep can do. And as much as you and I joke around, sometimes we're messaging each other saying like, what kind of boneheaded decision was that? Or what's the game plan here for this team? If a team does have an extra extended time to game plan for a certain team, it can benefit them. And maybe it kind of benefits them besides health-wise earlier in the year to get that extra week prep. They know who they're playing. But Brady Oliveira for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, like a running machine. We've got, just this team that's looking good all around. And here's one angle I will say, though, is that they're coming off a game against the Elks. And this is something that I use a lot in the NHL is, betting against the team after they just kick the shit out of a bad team. You get that false sense of security, false sense of like happiness almost like, oh, we're so good. We just, meanwhile, the Elks are giving up 35 on average a game. But the problem is that I don't know if I want to bet against Winnipeg. I don't know if I want to wake up and say, hey, you know what? I want to bet my money against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now, as this team right now is 3-0 ATS. And they're putting up numbers consistently, and they're making it look easy. So I think it's a pass for me right now in this one. I might look towards a Calgary team total closer to game day. A lot of those team totals across most books will get posted closer to game day. So we'll see what we see tomorrow, maybe what goes live. I'm going to check live to see if anything's been posted as of right now. Let's see if we can. Yeah, I don't have anything, Bobby, but I might look towards a Calgary team total. Their offense might show up. They might put some points up on the board, but I don't really want to. I don't really want to lay it here, or I don't really want to take any points here at this one. Just because Winnipeg is so dangerous, I don't want to start my week off by hoping that they have a slow start. Kevin says Calgary also had some really bad variance, getting stopped at the goal line 3 times versus Ottawa. Weather neutralized VA and the pass game last time out. Any thoughts on that?
No, he's absolutely right. They played that correctly. I think 2 of those goal lines were the result of the same sort of goal line stop. So, but that's why you don't kick stupid field goals. You go for it on third. If you fail, you've got them pinned on the 2. You usually get the ball back around midfield. You go again. So, Calgary seems to be getting it this year. In terms of Winnipeg, they're 3-0 against the spread, and that's one with Chris Streveler, one against the Lions where the offense didn't look that great, and one last week where they kind of had they spotted a bunch of points to the Elks, and then still covered the spread by almost double digits, right? So, yeah, I'm fine staying away. This sometimes the best bet you make is no bet, right? So sometimes the line's right.
Well, and one thing I'll say that I've done a lot this year, which, I think I've done this and collected a lot of CLV, as we've talked about, but I've played a lot of games in advance, a couple days advance, Bobby. You might catch me wait until game day a little bit more here this week. We'll see what happens. I mean, you don't want to be getting the worst of the number by any means. But I always talk about Jeff Dawson, who I do a show with. He's Mr. Team Totals. Him and I do a lot of shows, team totals during the year in hockey. He's only bet team totals this year in the CFL. You pick the winner, that team total is going over. You look at Winnipeg last week, it was 30 or 31.5, Bobby, was what the number was for them. You look at some of these teams, Saskatchewan over BC, like so many different games where the team totals a spot. And I understand that the way I'm looking at it is this. I don't know if 3.5 is enough to get me interested in the Stamps. But if I can see a team total that I'm comfortable enough with, then I'm just cheering for them to get points, and I don't have to worry about their defense. And that makes me feel good, not having to worry about what they do on one side of the ball. So that might be one of my first client team total plays of the week, of the season, is just looking at the Stamps to get some points up on the board. But this next one, Hamilton, Toronto, shockingly enough, I mean, again, we haven't seen too much movement this week, Bobby. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but this one hasn't moved too much. This one's kind of the stench of the week. I want to know your thoughts on it.
This is wait till later in the week for the stench, but this line, it did open. What did this open at? Like +1.5 Hamilton. Now it's almost basically at a pick, right? So, like Hamilton, yeah, I was on the wrong side of them last week for sure, and they played one of the best games I've seen them play in a long time, and it was good for them to have that game against Montreal. Even your boy Tim White, it seems like he's got his talent back. So I can point out when he drops the balls, but he actually, I think he had 8 catches on 9 targets, something like that. So Hamilton looks good. Toronto off a win, but that win was against Ottawa, and Ottawa. I figured out that Ottawa just plays like they don't care or they don't know what the score is. Like they'll just play football just to play it, right? So it was kind of an easy game for Toronto, but even then, like they had 14 points from Sluker or something.
Yeah.
like a special teamer who had 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards in return yards on those. But aside from that, like they didn't really put up much against Ottawa. I mean, I guess they didn't have to, but it's not as impressive as a win as it looks on paper, I guess is what I'm saying. So like Hamilton is getting healthier, especially in their secondary. They have a few key guys who are doing full practice this week. So I know it's like, I think Hamilton should be favored, and I don't think many people should be favored on the road in the CFL, at least at the start of the season here. But they're facing Nick Arbuckle. It's a rivalry game on the road. It's an hour up the road for them, right? So this is the best they've looked in a long time. I picked them up at +1.5. I still like him at a pick here. I think this is if they lose by 2 special team touchdowns, then so be it. But I think Hamilton looks good. I'm buying into Hamilton. I wanted to buy into them a little earlier in the year and got burned, but I think this is a good spot for them.
I'm with you. I just feel like there's two factors to this game. There's a lot of times across a lot of sports, you wait to see when this team will get their first win, being Toronto, right? And then it's the time to roll with them. But at the end of the day, too, though, you look at the win that they collected and you have to assess how much you care about that win. And that's the big thing, right? Like you look at, you can look at what a team did or you can look at what their opponent did. And I like what you said there. Ottawa just plays football. They're just out there playing. To me, that game, Toronto versus Ottawa, was just a game of mistakes. I mean, if we want to talk about the ugly game of the week, that one didn't look great. You want to talk about the special teams and a defensive player he had a 90-yard return and a 105-yard return. I mean, that guy just earned a contract in the CFL for the next few years with just that game alone, I'd probably say here with that one, Bobby. But at the end of the day, one thing I've noticed is that Toronto actually has done pretty good against the pass, and they haven't done well really against the run. Hamilton, as we all know, they're just a strict passing team. They do have that running threat, but they're mostly just a passing team. So I kind of worry about that a little bit. But one thing I like about Hamilton, and actually Bobano was saying this to us a little bit as well, but I think we noticed a correction in this in the last week was that they're spreading the ball around more. Like if we look at the game for Hamilton versus Montreal last week, some of the stats here for Hamilton, how many guys caught at least 2 balls? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's pretty good. I mean, Tim White did get 10 targets. Like maybe they can give somebody else a couple more of those. But you like to see a lot of guys getting involved in the offense. If, we can see certain guys mix it up, if we can see Bo Levi Mitchell changing things, no interceptions for Bo against Montreal's defense. I know it was a tough go for Montreal's offense, but he still looked pretty good against their defense. I'm on the same page as you. I like this number. I think Hamilton's better than what we've seen so far this season. They're going to get some confidence off that, and they do have a good offense. I don't think anybody could dispute their offense all year. I think it's mostly just been their defense. And I think it was was it Hamilton versus Calgary earlier in the year? I don't know if you were on them as well. I was on Hamilton. Yeah, I think you were on them, right? It was plus, I think I got like plus 3.5 or something like that. Plus 3.5 or plus 4.5. And they're always giving themselves a chance. I feel like, especially ATS-wise, they're always giving themselves a chance. And in this one, I have this one as a slight favorite for Hamilton. So I'm right there with you, plus 1.5 on the Ticats. That's in pocket, and I feel like they get the job done in this one. It's at this point we have to mark that win for Toronto more as just, hey, they played Ottawa. And you can call me an Ottawa hater all you want. A lot of people out there, shout out to Gabe Morency, but without Drew Brown, they are a different team. And Bobby, when I look at these backup quarterbacks they have, how can I expect anything to change from one week to the next? What are they going to do? Learn how to throw 20-yard passes in 5 days? Because if you're Geno Lewis and you're running a route, has he gotten hit past the 20-yard mark with a backup quarterback?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a receiver on that team for even like the past 5 years. Like they've had no hope. They put out Caleb Evans there for a season and a half. Dom Davis, like these, I don't know. You just wait for Drew Brown to come back and you hope that Hamilton slows down because Toronto's going to get it together. So they'll get it in the playoffs, and Ottawa and Hamilton will fight out for that last spot. But yeah, it's sad situation in Ottawa. It's been sad for a long time. So.
Yeah, it's just, it's such a difference from Drew Brown. And now I feel like I'm just like the president of the Drew Brown fan club here because I'm just talking this guy up, but it's more so like he can sling the ball. Like the guy can sling the ball. And a lot of people said that based on last year's success and making a playoff game, putting up points in the playoffs despite his defense giving up a bunch of points, it gave him confidence coming into this season to throw the ball deep and take some shots downfield. And he's played like 3/4 of football this season. Like it's tough to see a guy barely play that much. But all right, moving on to the next one here. Looking at BC and the Alouettes, Montreal in bounce back mode, -4.5 here, total 48.5 against the BC Lions. Before we get into the game, I want to ask your thoughts on Buck Pierce so far as a coach of the BC Lions. I'm a guy off a loss with them. So again, you know my frustrations, but I just feel like this guy was an OC with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and sometimes even as an OC with the Bombers, I was frustrated with some play calls. Do you agree with some of these play calls and some of these moves? I mean, you're the guy that usually attacks coaches. How about your own coach over there in BC?
The one I got to see once a week at practice, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. He was a good offensive coordinator in Winnipeg. Like, you can't really judge too much of what he's done so far. He's had 2 games with Masoli, and Masoli's clearly lost a step, right? The only thing that I really can't stand these coaches for are the ones that go for these field goals on the 6, and that seems to be almost everybody in the league again. So I was hopeful in week 1 when Buck Pierce was clearly going for it on third down goal line situations, and he seems to, I don't know if he's been burned by it. He got burned a bunch of times. Luckily they were playing Edmonton in week 1, so it wasn't even a question. But he's gone back to these stupid field goals. That's really my only criticism of him so far. He can only I'd like to comment here. Kevin's right. Like, he can only do so much with Jeremiah Masoli out there. I'm thinking of a Casey Printers quote from Hard Knocks, the year he left the Lions and went to the Chiefs or something, and that's basically what Buck Pierce is doing out there while Rourke is on the sidelines. So I'll reserve judgment until Rourke comes back, because I've seen what the other options are. I watched the other options for the past few years here in BC, and I'm happy. If I was a big Lions fan, I'd be much happier with Buck Pierce than Rick Campbell making decisions when the game's on the line.
Yeah, I mean, just to me, it's obviously the play that sticks out to my head, and I know he was the one that called it, was that they go for a shot to the end zone before half. Justin McInnis catches it. I'm all fired up and gets called for offside. He's clearly offside. They run the ball the next play, Bobby, and I was freaking out in our group chat with me, you, and Ian. They run the ball. I'm like, this is perfect. He's setting up for a field goal. Going to be 10-9 going into the half. He's like, no. Let's take one more shot. And it's not even a shot to the end zone. It's a sideline play. So the guy had to throw the ball like 30 yards to only gain like 2 or 3 yards. So what was the point of that play? And it ends up being a pick 6 to end the half. And I just found that he called a lot of the same plays that he would call with Rourke. Am I wrong on that? Like, I feel like a lot of the plays that he called, I would be okay if it was Rourke slinging the ball. Seemed like it wasn't much different than if it was Masoli or who.
Yeah, and they did split reps like the entire week in practice, and maybe that's why. Like, it wasn't 100% Masoli game plan. But yeah, that wasn't great calling there, given the time left. Like, even if they did make that pass, maybe they were hoping he'd get out of bounds, and even then he'd be out of bounds with like 8 seconds left. You get one more play there. And it's probably third down, isn't it? So yeah, that wasn't great, but
well, you're usually the guy that's against field goals, but I think that might have been the one spot you'd agree with me that just kicked the field goal.
If there's 0 time left on the clock, yeah, field goals are okay. There was a really good one. There was a really good one last week that didn't burn you got burnt on that live over in Toronto, where they went for a field goal and missed it at the end of the game, trying to get a field goal for point differential.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me. All right, so it looks like MBT is going to be the guy. Davis Alexander will most likely be out back-to-back weeks. Montreal's back at home. We know how lethal of a team they are at home, and I got to give credit. Hamilton does seem to play better at home themselves. How do you feel here? BC going on the road. They're going to be feeling some pressure here to have a good game, but -4.5. MBT once again here. What do you think? Bounce back mode for the Owls.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a factor here. Like, they laid an egg against Hamilton there. So, like you said, like, doesn't look like Alexander's back. And that was basically confirmed yesterday at practice. That's why the lines moved down to like 4.5 here. For the Lions, it's a question too. Like Rourke took most of the reps on day one yesterday, but he did that last week too. So I don't know if they're going to rush him back for like a cross country trip against the Alouettes, are like one of the best defenses in the league. If they do start Rourke, like this number is going to come down more. If they don't, it's probably going to be Chase Bryce, and this number is going to go back up over a touchdown. So either way, like I like the Owls in either situation. I like the Owls if it's like a 3.5 against Rourke. I like the Owls if you can grab a 4.5, 5, 6 against Chase Bryce. So it's more of just like wait for the news to break, and we went through this last week with Saskatchewan, BC. Every time there was a change in quarterback news, it took like an hour or 2 hours for the line to adjust. Like there are some stale books, like Pinnacle, move right away, fine. But most of these other offshores, like they hold that number. They don't take money seriously at these books. So I just wait for the news out of BC Lions practice. And again, it's not just quarterback issues for BC. Like their O-line is beat up. They got over half of their starting O-line is out. Could say probably the same for their D-line too. So a lot of kind of replacements, a lot of Canadians getting called in here, and that's what Luke Wilson's going to point out. But I'll also mention BC. I think they only had one Canadian on their O-line, and Rourke got injured pretty quickly this year too. So I don't know if that's the entire reason. And there are people that know a lot more than me about the ratio rule here, and I kind of tend to agree with them that it is a good thing. Otherwise, you're just going to get a revolving door of Americans coming in for a week at a time until they find the right guy. So there's no continuity in that. The ratio rule, I'm a supporter of it. So.
Well, we haven't seen this BC team cover a road game, and we haven't seen them cover as a dog. We're only in week 5, but I'm right there with you. But I think what I'm going to do, Bobby, is look towards the first half with the Montreal Alouettes. This is a team that comes out firing at home. This is an MBT that, although he doesn't really seem to show a lot of emotion, he seemed like pretty pissed off with his performance and kind of how he played. I think this team's going to game plan well against the BC Lions. And I think for BC, we're probably going to see a little more of a conservative effort. And you mentioned the injuries. I think that this is going to be a start the Montreal is going to be really strong in. We can get that under 2.5, get them to win by a field goal to start the game in the first 2 quarters. That's kind of where I'm looking here. Until Rourke is back, I don't want anything to do with this BC team. And at the end of the day, I know it is MBT, but it's MBT in bounce back mode off, the Alouettes loss as well. Let's just not blame the whole game on MBT as well. It wasn't a great game for the Montreal defense either. I think this team plays their best football when they're at home. This is a team that can bounce back. And also, where was Philpott? Where were some of these receivers? I mean, they didn't really have their best outing. I think we'll see them bounce back and do very well. Also, this Lions team against the run, if I can just pull it up here, rushing yards allowed per game, 140 rushing yards allowed per game, dead last in the whole CFL. And if you remember that quote that I mentioned in week 1, it was pretty much the entire coaching staff saying for Montreal, we want to run the ball down every team's throat every single week to help us open the passing game. I'll be looking at some running props here this week for the Alouettes, but I'll be looking towards Montreal in the first half to get the job done. That is a huge, and I'll just point out Montreal, they're second best in the league against the run. BC dead last. So first half play for me, this is one of those ones when you have just a pitiful. This reminds me of the NHL, taking a really good team the next game after a tough performance to win the first period -0.5. I used to bet that all the time, and usually you're getting them as good favorites. Like, if you're betting a -0.5 first period in the NHL and it's plus money, it's probably not a good bet. Like, usually I'm betting it like even money or like -110, 115, or maybe like plus 110. But this reminds me of this perfect bounce back spot. First half for the Alouettes to get it done here. I want to bet against the backups. And at the end of the day, we can all say that MBT wasn't great last week, but he's probably the farthest thing away from a backup at this point. He's had some meaningful starting games, as you and I both know, right?
Yeah, he played well last year. Like he was on quite a losing streak with the Elks, but I don't think there were many games where you could point and say, "Hey, MBT put up 32 points and we still lost. This guy stinks." Like it wasn't him, and he kind of got run out of there because they won't get rid of Trey Ford, and I guess we'll get into that.
Well, look, all right, let's get right into it here. Actually, before we do, I just got to mention this. I got to mention the special because it's the last day for it. If anybody's interested here,
hey, where was your Canada Day sale? That guy had a good comment.
I put it up. We had one going there, but we weren't live yesterday, so I had the Canada Day sale going.
All right.
Right now, 4th of July blowout special, $69 for a week of all plays. You're going to get CFL, any rare MLB, anything else that I do release. So you guys take advantage. One best bet is $25, 5% plays, $35. As we know, in this game and in most things in life, better to buy long-term. If you're interested, 4th of July blowout sale, 7 days of all access or flex picks for $69. So it's a really good deal. If any of you guys are interested, feel free to head over. Grab that, wt.buzz/am, or you can message me on Twitter at McInnis Picks. We can talk things out, but we're looking forward to still having a real profitable CFL season. Looking forward to week 5 and dabbling in the MLB as we move along throughout the summer. So happy I can make the graphic as well. I don't know. Nobody even told me I was going to cut it with the graphic, but I don't know who chose that, Bobby, for me not being American. And they put me on that graphic, but I love it. Shout out to the team for that one, putting me on there. So, guys, wagertalk.com, 1 week pass. And you know, people don't like the 1 month and the 90 days, sometimes find that too intimidating. So I think 1 week is a really good sample size just to see. And you can see my write-ups. You can see how I bet. Hopefully, we're not just seeing the CLV this week. Hopefully, we're winning as well, because nobody cares about CLV unless you get the job done. All right. Your thoughts on this game here, the Elks plus 1.5. You talked about the stench. I got a feeling, based on your Twitter, what you're doing here with the team that's averaging 35 points against per game.
Yeah. So last week, everybody is saying, "Oh, Trey Ford, he's improving." But even then, like even in that game, if you had Cody Fajardo playing instead, like, would you say that like he wouldn't have done any better? And that's every game so far. And this has been every game. This has been a lot, basically his whole career for Trey Ford. And they're trying to make fetch happen with Trey Ford here, and it's not going to happen. He's had 4 years. He's had 21 starts, 8-12. He got injured out like early in one of them. And I looked up a few quarterbacks who started fewer games that nobody's asking for. And the obvious one here is Chris Treveler. He started only 14, and I think his record is pretty similar. But nobody's out there saying let's get Chris Treveler. They actually tried to run Matthew Schultz out of the league last 2 weeks ago. He's only started 14 games. I don't know his record, but I assume it's not bad because he did take the job from current East MOP Bo Levi Mitchell. Bo Levi Mitchell couldn't compete with Matthew Schultz. That's why they got rid of him, I guess. Cameron Dukes, literally out of the league now. Went 5-6, 11 starts. Dustin Crumbs only had 16 starts. Nobody's asking for him, even though we're probably going to get him, right? Caleb Evans, another guy. Like, these are people that, some of them old, some of them young, but Trey Ford's had 21 starts, and people are saying, "Oh, just give him a chance, let him grow." He's going to be 30 years old pretty soon, and we're going to say, like, how, like, are we still going to let him grow? So, the problem that's always with Trey Ford is, like, sure, the league posts all his videos. All the media says, "Oh, God, he's so exciting. He's such a great quarterback. This is his year." They're always wrong, but it doesn't matter. The books can't be wrong, and the books have never bought into this Trey Ford stuff. So that's why they're still a home dog. And that's my Trey Ford rant. And now I'm going to tell you why I'm betting on Trey Ford this week. Because they're playing Ottawa, and Ottawa is unbettable. and they look awful without Drew Brown. So this is nothing we didn't expect. We know what Dustin Crum was. Yes, he won a game where Calgary basically handed it to them, along with 50-mile-an-hour winds and 7-degree summer weather. So, like, he's going back out there again. It looks like it. People are already calling for Matthew Schultz to come back after they tried to run him out of the league 2 weeks ago. They're like, let's get Schultz back out there. Tyree Adams. They have 4 quarterbacks on this team. I don't know why. He's also an option. I watched Tyree Adams.
Bobby, we know why. None of them are good, so they just recycle all of them.
You don't need 3 bad quarterbacks backing up Drew Brown. So, like, we know what we have in these backups. So the only thing that's going to save the Redblacks here is Drew Brown. And even if he does start, I don't think he should be getting. Well, what is it right now? It's down to 1.5. That's probably where it should be. So worst case, you get Drew Brown off an injury. Are you expecting he's going to be 100% healthy? Probably not. And I think that's the line. That's the most they should be laying on as a road dog. This is the Ottawa Redblacks, and they're road dog. They're road favorites. Like, that in itself, I'll take any team against them. So, yeah, I think Trey Ford stinks. I'm tired of this. It should be Cody Fajardo in there right now. But I'm still taking the Elks because they're playing the Redblacks.
Well, I mean, based on what we saw, the Redblacks were allergic to any plays that were farther than a 10-yard pass. I mean, it could have been 2nd and 18, and they would throw a 3-yard dump off.
Yeah,
that's what we were seeing. Like the term that I heard the most was you just can't throw that ball underneath. That's what the broadcast kept saying. That's another throw underneath from Dustin Crum. It's like, yeah, man, the first down marker was 15 yards away. I don't know what he expects his receiver to do, but he's probably not getting that first down. They might as well have just punted it on 2nd down because they made minimal effort to get the
Hope
first
for a
down.
fumble.
Right? Yeah, so I agree with you on this one. I haven't locked any bet in so far on this one. This is probably a good prop game. I made money last week, and I shout out to you, Bobby, because you said, hey, don't give up. Don't give up. I had the Trey Ford player prop passing yards over. And I bet it in kind of a different scenario than this game will set up. However, though, I bet it when they were underdogs. I had Winnipeg first half and I had Trey Ford passing. But this is one of those ones where I just think they're going to be able to put up numbers on the Redblacks. Because if you remember, Trey Ford had looked awful in the first half last week. But then when he was behind, he was able to accumulate those yards for me when he was behind. This game, I think he could start off good. Look at what Arbuckle did to the Redblacks. And I know you're not the biggest Trey Ford fan, but if he can sling the ball and just kind of have that threat a little bit, then he can start running. They can establish the run game. I think that could be really good for them. One thing the broadcast team said last week, which I found kind of interesting, was that he didn't really run the ball much, especially in the first half. One thing for me is I'm a big fan of just be who you are. Like, I understand they want him to actually act as a QB and like throw the ball more and sit in the pocket and go through his reads. But Bobby, that's who he is. No matter what we're going to say about this guy, I know you have your Ford rants. If you're betting on him this weekend, you probably want him having over 7 or 8 rushing attempts from where I'm sitting at least. And I think if he does that against the Redblacks, he'll open things up for the passing game. They are playing at home. I agree with you on it. Again, this might be one of those ones where I probably just want to bet the team total, or find a different way to bet on them. We'll see where this number moves. If there's ever a chance, again, this is one of those ones. You look at Hamilton, you look at Ottawa here. This is one of those ones where we're not going to have to worry about a whole which team covered, which team won. It's just pick the winner, obviously, with a 1.5 point spread. So Edmonton to get the job done. And I'm going to tell you what. This is going to be one of those games, and I know you like to get middles pre-flop, as you did last week with BC Saskatchewan. You're going to be able to. I'm going to throw this out there now. You're going to be able to find your way in on both teams during this game. You'll be able to get Edmonton, or you're going to be able to get Ottawa as an underdog at +4.5, +6.5 at some point during this game. So Kevin says Trey Ford is the king of garbage time and wasn't great is being really generous when it comes to Dustin Crum and some of these guys. Absolutely. All right, long show for this week, but wanted to do some recapping for week 4. Wanted to talk about some ATS numbers. Anything else to add, Bobby, or we're all good to go?
Just on that, getting both sides in the live Ottawa Edmonton, I would just hope that Ottawa gets ahead, because if they're behind, I have no faith they're ever going to come back in any game. So
True.
Pick up Edmonton if they're getting any points, I guess, live. But pick them up now. It's a good number now, and if it's Dustin Crum, they should be favored by a field goal.
Let's have a good week this week. If it's not Drew Brown, we're Team Elks, that's for sure. And if it is Drew Brown, hey, we're still rooting on those Elks. Just a little more of a challenge. Let's have a good week, guys. Hope you guys have a lot of success betting the CFL. Remember, college football, NFL here before we know it, but we're here to guide you through the summer with some great CFL bets. Thanks for watching. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. It really does help us out. Take care. All the best.